Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 13th episode of Season 2 of the podcast Society and Stuff with your host, Joseph Eisman. The musical introduction of this podcast is brought to you by Blue Dot Sessions. The name of the song is Celestial Navigation, a really great piece of music that I think fit the mode for this podcast. The topic of this episode is about law and order. That is why I have a guest. She is the lawyer who graduated from Uppsala University in 2007 and has since then worked primarily with family law issues through her own firm, Kliently. With her long background in the human rights field, she has become particularly skilled in custody cases and in particular international abduction cases, where thanks to her legal skills and knowledge of Arabic, she has been well-resourced as a family mediator. During her time as a lawyer, she also worked as a public defender in criminal cases and as a victim advocate for crime victims. In addition to Swedish and English, she is also fluent in Arabic. I say welcome to Nadja Hatem. Hello, Nadja. How are you?
Hello, Joseph. Thank you for the great introduction. I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I am great, thank you. All good here. How does it feel being on this podcast?
Oh, very excited to talk about my field of work, what I have done and what I think we need to do in the future as lawyers. And thank you for the great introduction, really.
Yeah, you liked it?
I did. I do have a long background within my field, for sure. Sometimes I feel like a dinosaur in the legal field, but it was a great introduction. Thank you.
That's nice to hear. Great to hear that you liked it, that you appreciated it. Yeah. Have you been on a podcast before?
I have. Yes, I have. I'm quite familiar to the podcast era. I like the format of it, and I listen to a lot of podcasts myself. So yes, I do know what's ahead for us.
Good to hear. Now you have another podcast to listen to, maybe.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I have already listened to one or two episodes of this podcast. Primarily, I listened to this Italian lady who had remind me of, but she had a lot of interesting stuff to talk about.
Yeah, it was the topic about food and culture.
Yeah. Yes. It was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So how about, law and order is the topic that we will talk about today. How come you chose that field or that area?
Well, I think that we need to discuss a lot of things regarding law and order, like how the system works in general, I think, and what can be done to prevent an unfit system in society, in the world. So that is why, not only for me, I think the listeners are also interested in hearing about law and order and how it works. And the jungle of all of these lawful terms and all of these lawful actions that happens in court custody cases and etc. So that is why I really wanted to bring up law and order, and I think that the listeners also will find this episode very interesting and that they also want to know more about how it works and so on.
For sure.
And I am thinking, because you have a long background And you like the introduction I gave. So, but I'm thinking that before I begin with the questions, that we can begin with a bit of an introduction. If you could tell about yourself a bit more. Who is Nadja Hatem?
Yes, well, thank you. I mean, the introduction was great, but there are things to add on, obviously. So I graduated from law firm 2007, but I also graduated from I have a master in journalism. And I was not supposed to be a lawyer. I was supposed to work as a journalist. So that was my goal initially, but I was a good girl. So I had a double degree, which is quite common. And I actually started to work as a journalist. I did some articles, big articles. I met a lot of smugglers at that time. So I combined my legal field within the journalists, and I did a big work on that. That was very appreciated and published, and so that was the path I was supposed to take. And I started to work at Radio Uppland in Uppsala with the radio, and I used to do news. So I have learned the radio voice, and I know that. So that was where I started. But as always for Nadja Hatem, she wants to climb very fast. I wanted to go to Al Jazeera straight ahead. I wanted to be in the war zones. I want to be out there very fast. And not take my time. So basically, ending up making reports about lost cats wasn't really the thing that I really thought was where I was supposed to go. So then I found this job at a women's shelter or a women's organization where they actually looked for a lawyer that also had a journalist background who could speak Arabic. I mean, that was me, obviously. So I applied for that job and I got it. And I started my legal career there. So I worked there for a year or so, learned a lot. I met a lot of women who were victims of domestic violence. They also had children, so they had all the problems with the custody cases. And they also had a lot of issues with the migration board because a lot of them were foreigners. We met a lot of women who ended up in this women's shelter, and they needed the whole package. They needed really a lawyer who could speak their mother tongue and who could help them with all these matters. After a year or so, I started to look into what's next for me, and I applied for a lot of jobs within different law firms, but never really asked to come for an interview, which is one of the, this is how it looks. It's quite difficult, especially at that time. If you had no experience, no connections, and maybe a foreigner name, you weren't really that attractive, right? So I, as the entrepreneur I am, because I also always define myself as an entrepreneur, and this is now when I'm 40 something that I really figured that out. I thought, well, there is no law firm for people who are bilingual and who maybe cannot really speak or manage to be able to handle their legal cases within the Swedish language. So I thought, well, we need to start this firm that can provide legal expertise and advice in multiple languages. So that was what I did, basically. A year after graduation, I launched my first legal firm with no money, no clients, no really knowledge, haven't been to court, haven't done anything in that sense. I launched this firm with my partner another lawyer. She is from Iran, so she speaks Farsi, and we together launched that firm at 2009. And very, very quickly into that road, we started to get clients. We started to do get more and more legal clients, people who are in need. And that was the first steps of, being an entrepreneur, building something. And at that time, it was huge, actually, because no one did that. This was 2009, and we were the first ones who wrote a blog. We have always been in before everyone else with different marketing skills, and I think that has to deal with my journalist background, I think, as well, because I think you need to combine all the things. You just, as a lawyer, you have an obligation to really inform everyone what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what is wrong and what is right. So in that, we started, and in 2015, we became members of the Bar Association, which is also a very difficult path to do. Advokatsamfundet in Sweden and the Bar Association, you need to pass a lot of exams and you need to show a perfect, basically, organization or a law firm. So we did that. And I gained and worked mainly as a lawyer for many, many years, mainly with custody cases, criminal cases, and migration cases. So these are my topics, mainly the expertise I have. And we did that until 2021. In the end of 2021, since as the entrepreneur I am, I thought and found myself in a position that, well, I have done it all. This is it. There is nothing more I can do as a lawyer. I've done everything. Defended clients. I've won cases. I've, had really big criminal cases. I've done everything. And what's next? And we ended up discussing this and went back to the first law firm we launched during 2009, where we had this vision of legal, democratizing legal sources of everyone, making it easier, and provide legal aspects or legal advice for everyone in their mother tongue. And how can we do that? Per se, only me as a lawyer, well, I can do it for a certain amount of people. I cannot do more than that. I can do for 20 people or 20, 30, 45, 50 clients, but that's basically it. So this was also the era of COVID, and during COVID, everything went digital. Yeah. So we started to look into the medtech, and we looked at the courts, how did they handle cases or the hearings and so on, and we ended up by the idea of it's time to digitalize legal services as well. So the first of doing things, we left the Bar Association in the end of 2021, which is also something you don't do. You do not leave the Bar Association once you were once you entered. You should not make an exit. But we did. And the reason we did that was that we launched and started and funded Kliently, which is the legal tech company we have now where we work. And to be able to raise money, which we did, to be able to launch the platform of our app, we needed to leave the Bar Association because being a member there, you cannot have a company, you cannot work and function in a company if it's owned by non-lawyers. Raising money, well, you have to go to investors, and they are not normally lawyers. So that was the only main reason why we left the Bar Association. And the coolest thing was that the first day, which was it was the Christmas Day, we launched the app in 4 languages, in Arabic, Farsi, English, and Swedish. We got the first booking of a video call or a video meeting through the app the first day, which really showed us the need of our platform. Because that day, no one worked as a lawyer. That person who booked us had received a decision from the migration court, a negative decision of his permit, and he could not find any lawyer at that time, but we were online. He got hold of a lawyer straight ahead, and we could take the case in and we could help him out. So the vision of Kliently is that we, through our app, are the only platform that actually open up Swedish legislation towards the whole world on a globally market, because this wasn't something that we could foresee. We thought this would be only for within Sweden, but all of a sudden, clients sitting in Vietnam, in Washington, in Mozambique, in Zimbabwe, people in need of Swedish lawyers. People normally, they move around, they marry, people from different countries, they start companies, there are so many questions and so many cases going on. So this was a cool thing with Kliently, that we thought it would be for the mother tongue issue thing that we could provide, but it also showed us that the need in a global market is huge. So yeah, we've been functioning as Kliently for 4 years. Since the start, we have had at least 15 1,000 clients using the platform. Some of them use the platform only for 15 minutes to gain some knowledge about different topics, or if they have cases or taking the cases. So it doesn't have to only be 15 minutes. It's up to you. You choose what you are in need of as a client. Then we would, with Kliently, we want to lower the thresholds of legal services, because everyone is afraid of lawyers. Don't want to call a lawyer. Then you think, the bill will be huge. You don't want to go to this fancy office. So this is our way of making it accessible, easy, and affordable. And I think that's one introduction. Adding on
That's one introduction. Introduction about you. Wow, so you were a journalist at first.
Yeah.
So from being a journalist to being a lawyer, that's quite a path, I would say. It
is, but it's not too far away from each other, I would say, because as a journalist, I took my skills also into courtroom. When you're in the court and you're hearing, let's say, a witness that is not your witness. So you're, as a journalist, I learned that when you're interviewing someone, and if you are keeping silent, person who you're interviewing will at the end talk. No one like the silence. That's the same thing with witnesses. So if you ask a question and then you keep silent, the witness would talk in the end. So, there are so many different skills that you can use in different, areas. I think they are the same thing, really. Writing skills or talking skills or, oral skills when you are pledging for something in court, or you're keeping, your last words in court. All of these, I think, has been helpful to actually be a journalist in the ground, so to say.
How long have you been in Sweden? Or maybe you grew up in Sweden, you said.
No, I actually came when I was 11. So I was a refugee, and my background is from Iraq. So we came here when I was 11.
Yeah. Well, that's quite a story.
For sure.
You chose a different path than what you intended.
Yeah, well, I have thought about it many times on, how things turned out. And I think that I've always been an entrepreneur, even in the sense of, journalism, or I've had a lot of works. I've been working in basically everywhere you can imagine. And I get a lot of questions about it, because now we're 13th, 14th in Kliently, people working different backgrounds, and we have maybe 15 to 20 lawyers with us. So one of the questions I always get is, what do you look for when you hire someone? And I always say, I do appreciate when people have been working with services in different ways everywhere, being in a restaurant or being in, cleaning or whatever. Everything is something you learn. Everything is a good thing to have with you in your luggage.
Work is work.
Then you see, work is always work. Every work is good work. You have to be proud of whatever you're doing. This is your work. It's your, And then you see students or, coming to us and applying for work here. They haven't done anything. They have only done the theories, and theory is good, but, being able to handle a client in crisis, you need to have met people in crisis in different ways. So even someone going to a restaurant, ordering the wrong food, you have to handle it, right? So
yeah, you do.
Yeah. So now we're off topic, I think.
Well, it was a remarkable introduction about your path and, yourself and your entrepreneurial purpose. Yeah, you chose something different than what you intended. And so I'm thinking that we can move on to the first question of this interview. Maybe you covered it during the introduction part, but let's see. So here it is. What made you choose to become a lawyer?
Well, that's a great question, because I wasn't supposed to be a lawyer.
Right.
No, I'm joking. I don't know, actually. I've always wanted to be a lawyer. I mean, from a young age, when I, overcame this whole refugee thing, learning Swedish and ending up in high school. And, I wanted to do something with law. I wanted to work with law. I didn't want to be a doctor. When you're Arabic coming from Middle East, everyone wants you to be a doctor or an engineer. This is what you're supposed to be from your parents' side. Always.
I know. High pressure.
Very high pressure.
I tell from experience myself. So
yeah, no, for sure. But it's all of us has experienced this.
Yeah.
And I come from an academic family. There was no other really route for me to take. And I grew up in a very small town in the southern part of Sweden. I knew at least that the only way for me to get out of that small town is to go to university. So I was more into society. I was more into politics. I was more into these kind of parts. And so law for me was for sure things I wanted to deal with. I started law firm. I had a very good grades. You had to have it because otherwise you won't be able to be accepted. I ended up in Uppsala 2000. And I remember the day I started the law school. I entered this huge room, 300 students wanting to be lawyers one day. Everyone were dressed up in suits, and it was such a ridiculous view because we were like 19 years old. None of us was a lawyer, nothing. The first thing I remember was to overlook this room and finding people who looked like me, because that was something important to me, to find people that I could identify myself with. And I found three young guys who were all Iranian, because I got to know them later on. And the rest were very, very, very Swedish. And, all of them, well, not all of them, that's generalizing, but a lot of them came from, legal families. They had money. They were raised into this. I was not. I did not have an apartment. I did not have a computer. I did not have anything really. So that was a struggle itself. And I also found it difficult. I struggled a lot the first year. I wasn't sure if this was things I was supposed to do, because this was not what I thought it would be. So I, until I think the second or third year, I found the courses that I loved, which was human rights and law cases, or the legal field that I really, really loved, which was on the third year. So my first goal was to go to the UN in somehow, but then I just slipped into this journalist master year, and I loved it. So, I mean, study-wise, I would say journalism is my thing. But in the end, I'm an entrepreneur, so I didn't want to waste the whole law school. I did that as well. I took my exam and everything, and I just slipped into being an entrepreneur rather than choosing journalism or legal. But I would probably be the worst employee in a law firm. I have to do it myself. No, but that's the thing. I have to be my own boss. I have to do things my own way.
Your own way, yeah. So, you already have a vision.
Exactly. And my vision is like years ahead from everyone else. I'm somewhere else, and I'm very fast in this. And I also in Kliently, I'm the CEO of the company, but I'm very creative. I find different solutions for things. I find the problem. I see them before everyone else, but I might not be the best one. I need a huge stab of people fixing things behind, and I'm somewhere else. The thing with entrepreneurs, we are very fast. So if I give you an idea today, I need to be that done this week, because next week I'm somewhere else.
Understandable.
So we don't have any patience really. It has to go fast, very fast.
That's I do not know if you check the episode, the 12th episode about entrepreneurship.
Okay.
Where I interviewed another lady, and she also said that the topic was about entrepreneurship, and she also said that everything has to go in a fast pace. Like everything she does, it's
yeah.
She
exactly.
even mentioned to me that during the podcast interview that she had to talk slowly in order for, for others to understand, but otherwise everything has to go in a fast pace.
No, I'm exactly the same, so I can hear her. It's the same. Even talking in a slow way. No, I talk half of the things that I want to be said, and then I'm like, people will understand. Just move on. Well, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's good and bad, really. I think this topic is not about, this episode is not about entrepreneurship, but
no,
I think we definitely need more entrepreneurs in the legal field. So if we go back to the legal field, I think so. It's such a conservative branch where everything has been done as for like 200 years ago. We live in another world today.
Yeah, the change needs you feel that a change needs to be done, and it needs to be done. It has to be done now.
Yeah, it has to be done.
Yeah, understandable. Yeah, well, sometimes even I question the system and some laws, rules, and regulations that, you just question everything. And that is from someone who is not into law that much, but yeah. So
I think I have to say that one of the reasons also why I wanted to shift from traditional lawyering and going into the legal tech area was that I found myself, I've always worked and done the best for every client, but in the end, you get a little bit, this is how it is. There's nothing to do. This is how, it just felt like I cannot feel like this because then I'm not doing a good job. I need to do something else with my knowledge. So it's amazing sometimes where I have colleagues who are in their 20s and freshmen out of law school, and they really, they are fighting for people's rights. And I love that. I love that energy because, I've been working for 20 years. I've seen so many things that it's not fair, but law is not always fair, And this is something I had a mediation case today, actually. I was sitting in a mediation and I said that to both parties. I said that, fairness has nothing to do with law, which is terrible. But everyone thinks like, well, I will get my rights because of there is a law system and there is, but it's not always fair. It's not.
You never know what to expect.
No, especially, try, and I love the work with, in particular, mediation, because I've done so much fighting in courts regarding children, and I don't think children are to be fought about. I think you cannot fight about children. You can fight about money, but you cannot fight about children. So I think, to me, mediation and trying to help parents to find a solution regarding their children is amazing if I can help them. So I think mediation is something that is not really big in Sweden. We don't do that much mediation. I hope and would love to see a better, changing in that field. But parents are, there's so many parents ending up in court, sitting there with, with minor things that could have been solved ages ago if they just went to someone who could help them out, an expert. But yeah.
Yeah, no, as you mentioned about children being fought about, it will affect the child a lot and can become a traumatic response, a traumatic trigger in the future for the child.
Yes.
It
is terrible.
Sad. Yeah, it's very terrible.
And they don't, a lot of these kind of cases, the parents don't really think, they think that they're thinking about the child, but they are not really. So what I do is when we have a mediation session, I always put a big teddy bear in a chair in between, and then I write the child's name, and then I tell them so this is your daughter or your sons, and how would you like them to talk about this time when they are 18? You always have to remember that, one day they will grow up. One day they will be adults. How do you want them to think about that time when mom and dad were fighting about nothing, basically?
Yeah.
So that's there are many things you can do.
And we touched unfair laws and regulations and how the law, how some can be like, well, I have the right to this or to that. Or and so on, and how it can quickly shift but it can also quickly shift to the worst. So if we move on to the next question, then what are your thoughts on corrupt systems?
Well, that's absolutely terrible, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, corrupt system is, well, if you have the money, if you have the connections, you will be fine. If you don't, you will not be fine. That is not a system to ever, is wishable. That is not a country you would like to live in, really. Of course, it's easy for the people with connections and money, but then you have, the rest, which is normally in these countries are most of the people who do not have the power of money and connections. So no, that is definitely not a scenario we would like to have. And I think at least in Sweden, we do not have a corrupt system in that sense, of course. But what I can see is that, if you have connections and if you have the power of money, you will be more knowledgeable about your rights, what you can do, who you can hire, who will defend you. That is also a power that some people have in Sweden and some not. And that is one of the goals that we have in Kliently, that everyone will be able to have the power of legal support. Yeah. And it doesn't have to deal with your, the size of your pockets or your money or your financial income and so on, or your language. And there's huge barrier with the language. Just that, hiring an interpreter, half of the things sometimes get lost. So being able to talk to your lawyer with your mother tongue, that is such an amazing thing. And also being able to do that because, these topics are very hard. I wouldn't want to, even though I think I do speak quite okay English, I wouldn't want to talk about my biggest problem, let's say a divorce or custody, or I've been accused for something, in English. I would love to take it, for me at least nowadays, in Swedish, but also Arabic. I'm fluent in Arabic. Corrupt system is not a good thing, obviously.
No. I'm thinking it in the sense of, it can be cases about rape. It can be cases about when being taken advantage of, a lot of those cases. And as you mentioned about money, I always have a quote that I state. I always say, money talks, bullshit walks. That's a standard quote. You have plenty of contacts, you have plenty of money, you will get by fine, just fine. If you are just a hardworking soul out there doing your thing, noticing how you are unfairly treated or judged or, etc., nobody cares because, you are not considered this big shot someone or so on. Yeah. And it is sad that it is like that in some countries. I would say I see that a lot in Sweden. Would you agree or disagree with me on that?
I would say it does not deal with corruption in that sense, but it deals a lot of prejudices out there. Of course, if you come, let's say, I can give you a comparison here in custody cases. If you come as an ethnic Swedish man or father with a good job, good income, Swedish name, and then you come as a father originally from the Middle East with a Muslim name, let's say. I would say from my experience, I've experienced different way of how the social services, the courts, handles the cases, how they are looking upon this father. And I've seen terrible cases where there are so many prejudices, racism really, on how they have been handling the father, and they only upon different hearings or gossips or, this person or this man, he comes from a tribe and this tribe is, no one knows about this tribe. It's not a scientific, background check of this tribe. I've actually couple of times have taken in investigators who's been writing and reporting to court, telling them, well, this father is not a good father. He cannot have any custody or a part of custody. He should not meet the child, etc. And I took these people in and I asked them, well, you have been writing this report and you talk about this tribe and you talk about this, honor crimes and whatever they come up with, these things. Can you please verify? Where did you get this information from? And the answer is always, well, the mother said this. Yes, but that is not there are two parties in this case. Someone is accusing and someone is being accused. And I understand they do their job and their part is not, they are not investigators, they are not policemen, they are not supposed to, but still. So I would say, yes, you might be treated different depending on where you come from, what you're doing, what you know, who is beside you, really, for sure. But it doesn't have to do with corruption in that sense, but different
treatment, different treatment. Yeah. The word corruption, because it is being discussed a lot in the media, but also it is being discussed by other human beings when they see something, someone, a situation unfairly, a person being unfairly treated. Individuals tend to speak up because they see this is not how it should work. The justice system overall, this is not how it should work, and so on. So, yeah. And sentences or words like corruption or a corrupt system, they do occur in those cases or situations, you can say. Yeah. Great. I'm thinking we can move on to the next question, or you had something else you wanted to add?
No, we can move on.
Yeah, we can move on. Maybe you touched this already, but I'm going to go ahead and ask the question anyway. You are one of the founders of the digital platform and app Kliently, which offers legal support. Can you tell us a bit more about Kliently and its purpose?
Yes, I touched this, obviously. But Kliently is a digital platform. It's an app and also on the web where everyone in Sweden and globally can book a legal consultation with a lawyer at a minimum of 15 minutes. So you can book 15 minutes, you can book longer, and so on. So basically, we call it smörgåsbord, as in Swedish. You can choose your need and you pay for your need. You don't have to go and always pay for an hour, because an hour is always very expensive with a lawyer. But sometimes you only have a small question regarding something going on in your life. We are not ChatGPT, and I would say ChatGPT would probably give you some answers, but but it's not always the right answer for you, because, you need to have, it's not black and white. Law is never black and white, legal aspects and so on. And AI is a great tool, but AI will never be instead of senior lawyers who can negotiate, who can take processes in courts and so on and so on. So we are definitely in need, and people can therefore book us through the platform, and we are available Monday to Sunday, every day, evenings, weekends, holidays, which makes us very accessible for everyone.
24/7.
24/7 for sure. And so we're a startup, still developing, still growing, and things are moving forward very fast. And for us, we do, how do you say?
Democratization.
Thank you. Now, so Kliently do handle basically all your legal needs. We can take in every call, every case. We have experts in every field, basically. So you don't have to look for different law firms handling different topics, different areas, and so on. Within Kliently, you can find everything. So that is our vision, really, to make legal requirements easy to get hold of and get help as fast as possible within your mother tongue, and affordable.
Sounds good.
Mm.
Yeah, there you have it, folks. You can reach them 24/7.
And you need to download the app Kliently, and from there you can always get a hold of a lawyer the same day. And every Tuesday, it's free consultation. So you can book on Tuesday with the promo code 2026 for free. So that is also one of the goals we have, that even though you don't even have the small amount of money, you can get it for free to be able to get to know your rights and your duties. And we're also very big on TikTok. We do have live sessions on TikTok every Tuesday where we answer different questions that comes in. And these are very appreciated, to say the least.
Good. Yeah. I'm thinking that we can then move on to the next question. We touched this in the beginning of the interview. So, here it is. How many cases regarding discrimination have you received and do you receive?
That's a quite difficult question because cases are, when we say cases that has ended up in court. That is not many, I would say. And I cannot give you a figure at all, but we do get a lot of questions about these things. Discriminations, a lot within the work field, people who are not happy within how they have been treated in companies where they've worked, for instance. Cases also within the school environment, so children. Cases within clubs. You have a lot of young men who is not allowed to enter clubs. That is something that we also get. Me, myself, I'm not the only one working, obviously, so I don't work with these cases, but I know as a COO that we get them. I have myself got some questions about these. You can find me in the app as well. I still sit in the app because I think it's very nice to see what people, what their needs are. So yes, discrimination is something for sure that we hear commonly. Yes. But I would say for now, mostly within the work or school.
So discrimination in workplaces, at work, and in school, in the school system, or just, okay.
Mostly children, well, their parents do, take the legal consultation regarding a children who's been treated in a certain way or so on.
Wow. It's fascinating, though, when speaking about discrimination, work and school are two topics being brought up under that category. Why is that, would you say? So I just think it's quite interesting.
I mean, for school, I would say it doesn't always might be discrimination, but it's sensitive, obviously. You're always, as a parent, you want the very best thing for your child. And if it's handled within a system that is framed in a certain way, you might believe it's a discrimination case or so on. So it doesn't always have to be, but you just feel like it. So it's maybe just how you feel as a person. And it might be the same thing with work-related cases. And I think if we just take away the legal aspects of it, if we just look at it in a political way, there is a very much we and them thought in Sweden still. We are, a lot of people do not feel welcome, really. And that is something that they will also feel when they get a job, or they, if things are being treated in a way, or they are being treated in a way, they might feel it's about discrimination. It might not even qualify within the Discrimination Act, but it's just something that they feel. Or it might do. I mean, you have to look at every case separately and see what has been done and what has been said. But I think in overall, it's just a feeling people have because they genuinely do not feel welcome, really. I mean, for an immigrant, I read that it takes 7 years to get their first job. And
wow.
Yeah, I read that figure somewhere statistically, and living in a country where it takes you 7 years to get your first job
doesn't sound good. No.
And I mean, what does that make you feel? And I think everyone wants to provide for themselves and their families, and not being able to do that because it's very hard to get a job in this country. Especially, we are so into that everyone has to speak fluently Swedish and so on and so on. I mean, It doesn't make any sense.
No,
really.
No, it doesn't. Well, it is questionable. If it takes you 7 years to get a full-time or part-time or half-time job, depending on how much capable you are of working, it is very strange. It is
very strange, and it shouldn't take that long. So I think, when you have been struggling for 6-7 years until you land your first job or for full-time tills vidare, when you have that in your luggage, then you might be also very sensitive on how you've been treated. I don't know. I'm not saying everyone is sensitive, but every case is unique, and you have to look at every case. Yeah.
Absolutely. Of course. Yeah, that's how it is. Great. I'm thinking we can move on to the next question then. We touched about immigration, and that is what you mainly work with during law and as a lawyer. And then we have the next question. Asylums are also a hot topic, and residence permits are being recalled and or revoked, especially for those who are truly in need of them and who contribute to society. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I do have a long experience within the migration field. I don't mainly work with these cases, but we do handle a lot of them, and Kliently is a very strong voice within migration law. And my partner is one of the main experts in Sweden within the migration field and asylum, especially political asylum. So we've been working with migration since 2007, basically. And at that time, we thought things were not always the best law to have, and a lot of people were not granted asylum and permits and so on. But I mean, when I remember on how it looked at that time and how it has been shifting during the years, I could only dream about going back, because the regulations now has been terrible on how they have been changing, and how the political parties that has been elected has really shifted. And they changed, and they went to election almost 4 years ago on reducing asylum seekers, reducing and making it harder basically for everyone coming from other countries. So for asylum, so to say, basically there is no asylum seekers now. I mean, they have really concluded what they aimed for and what they went for elections for. They changed a lot of different legal aspects that has been changed. The revoking permits, we always have had that. It's nothing new really, but the new thing is that it's so much easier for them to open cases now, and they have basically stricted it in a way that the migration board now, as soon as there is anything, they will open. They will open cases that are 10 years old or 13, 15 years old. And, we see a development that has never been seen before. And what has happened now, it has not, in media, everyone has read about these young minors who's been deported without their families, and the families are here. We have stricted the family reunion obligations. We have stricted the asylum. There are no asylum, basically. There are no permanent residencies anymore in that sense. It's very difficult. They have now last week, they have put this new regulations that might probably go through regarding Swedish citizenships and how the qualifications need to be done. And it will take longer time. You need to be able to speak Swedish. You need to have passed some tests and so on. So we are really moving on a path that Sweden has never ever before been to. What makes people, all these signals that we are signaling now make people from other countries or refugees or immigrants feeling that they are not being wanted here.
Yeah.
It does, that even occurs to me. I've been here since I was 11, and I'm a successful lawyer with a law firm and so on,
Yeah.
And I feel that. I really feel that, I'm not sure I would like to have my children being raised up here in this environment. And how about then someone coming from Syria, living here for 12 years, 13 years, not being able to get a permanent residency at all? And they have been fighting because being able to get a permanent residency, you need to have a job, a full-time job. And to be able to get that, well, we just recently said it takes you almost 7 years to get that. If you
outrageous.
So we are losing so many good people, because people in the end, they just want to have peace of mind. They want to plan for their life, for their future, for their children. And how can you ever plan for your children and your future if you are never sure of the fact if you can live here or not, if you're welcome or not? So I'm talking more in a political view rather than the legal aspects of it. And we as lawyers, we are going basically crazy because we can't understand the law. We don't know, and nothing is really been used to, or we don't have a case law. We don't have anything. Nothing is proven. So every time a client nowadays call in, I don't know. We don't know how these things will go because it's not being proven. I have no idea. So yeah, I have a lot of things going. You said a lot of sayings about this.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and I think everyone will hear you. No, really, it is outrageous, and how the leading politicians and leading political parties are shifting in their ways, their behavior. The actions does not match the words. It is very discouraging. It is individuals are worried. Very worried.
Very worried.
Absolutely.
Sure. And it doesn't, it's not only the immigrants, it's also the Swedish people, because they have now seen their neighbors are being deported, their nurses are being deported, we cannot have a country functioning like this.
No.
Also, regarding the just recently news, or the topic I saw, that we have not, 2025 was the year where least children were born in Sweden ever.
2025.
Yes.
That was the year.
Last year.
Yeah.
We have had the lowest amount of children being born in Sweden. And this is something going on basically in the whole world. Everything is going down. So is our solution then deporting everyone who need to work to be able to, So, yeah.
Of course, there are other aspects also regarding minimized birth of children. Of course, there are other aspects there. And as you mentioned, it's, I myself, I'm born and raised in Sweden with parents from Turkey, as it should be called nowadays. Well, I'm born and raised in Sweden. I'm from Sweden, a Swedish citizen and everything. We are Syriacs. I'm Syriac. Yeah. And I see the behavioral shifts when it comes to individuals with a foreign background, definitely. And how it can occur right in front of your eyes without you even realizing it. Later on, you start reflecting and you start thinking about it, or that specific situation or happening, and you're like, what did just happen? Yeah.
For sure. And I've this is something that I also I came when I was 11, and I never felt ever Swedish until the point I moved to London and lived there. And that was the only time I could say I was Swedish, and nobody questioned that. Because in Sweden, I can never say I'm Swedish, ever. It's fine with me now, but it hasn't been fine, because you need to identify yourself with something or somewhere, and you need your roots and all that. And I struggled a lot during the years, but now as an adult, no, it's okay. I know who I am, and I always say I'm Nadja, I'm global. I don't need to define myself either there or here. I'm myself,
You're international now.
I'm very international. Yeah, and my husband is half Italian. My children are, a mix. We call them salad, basically. They're from everywhere. So we're very international.
Both sides.
Yeah. So, but I think still that no one really sees you as a Swede.
Yeah.
It's problematic.
It is.
Yeah. I would like to see one day that we can say, well, I'm Iraqi Swede. I think that is, if there is anything positive in the US, the slightest, we should not go into that discussion now, but the slightest thing that is positive is that people can say, well, I'm Mexican American, or I'm Italian American, or, and that's fine, because that is how they built their country. And here, either you're Swedish or you're something else. You can never be.
No. But the Swedish, I have a Swedish citizenship, but but you're something else. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, strange and outrageous.
Sure.
We have established. Yeah. I'm thinking we can move on to the next question. So here it is. Joint property arrangements can be a hassle if the plaintiff who wants it does have the law by their side for it. But sometimes the counterparty can succeed in getting away with most of the joint property arrangements, and the agreement can be unfair to the plaintiff. Sometimes the plaintiff can get nothing at all. What are your thoughts on that?
Well,
this is question.
Not my field at all. I don't work with this kind of cases really. But I think the most important thing here is the knowledge. You need to understand when things can go wrong. Because as I understood your question, when you say joint property, you mean samäganderätt. Is that correct? Is that we are
in Swedish, bodelning.
You're thinking of bodelning. Well, that I know a lot of.
Yes.
Okay. Well, okay. So, yeah, that is a huge area that is, I would say, if there is anything unfair, this is the most unfair part of the legislation, I would say, because what happens is when you get a divorce, you need to divide your whatever assets there is. If you have apartments, houses, cars, whatever. If you have a contract, let me find the name for it in English. I should know this, but sometimes I just lose it with my language. So if you have a prenuptial agreement, there you go. If you have that, and if you know what you have signed on, well, you're fine. Everyone will go out of that divorced with their thing that they brought into the marriage. But most of the people, they don't have this. And what I can see also, it has to deal with the what kind of information you have gained and know and so on. And if you want to generalize, Swedish people normally know about this, ethnically Swedish people, but if you come from another country, you don't know about this thing at all, and then you end up in a divorce, and then you basically end up either you will find a solution, because this is how it goes. Both parties in a divorce, they will either find a solution on how to divide things. If they don't, they have to go to court and ask for something called bodelningsförrättare, which is an appointed lawyer normally from court that will call you in both and ask you to show all the assets, and then they will help you out. But what happens is that you need to pay for this. And if you don't have the money to hire a lawyer or even pay for this bodelningsförrättare, well, you end up by not being able to divide. But if you don't have this prenuptial agreement, then everything should be divided into 50-50. But not straight ahead. If you are married in a year or 2 years, it's not 50-50. It's percentage-wise, but after 5 years at least, it should be divided. So I think it's not really, it can be unfair in the sense that not everyone can afford to hire a lawyer if you end up in that huge problem and not being able to divide, but you have to divide at one point. And also, no one is forcing you, but if there's one party who would like to divide, you have to divide. But you can also say, well, you take the house, I leave. But
yeah,
most commonly, I would say, what I have seen from my experience is that a lot of women have difficulties with this. There is a lot of money in the properties and so on, but they cannot really, get the financial help to be able to divide and then get some money to be able to move on. So yes.
Yeah. I am also thinking in the sense of, because there can be, people with psychotic tendencies in these cases and these agreements, and with narcissistic tendencies. And, they can maybe mask it or cover it very well, or maybe they unmask themselves somehow, but still they successfully cover it very well. And they can be very aggressive or very hard towards the other party. It can be the plaintiff, or maybe I'm thinking in general, they can be very hard and aggressive towards the other party. And the other party can be like, what have I done? And be afraid of what is going on, what is happening, But fortunately, the law does not cover narcissistic or psychotic tendencies in cases like these.
No, for sure. But then I think the most important part here would be to have a lawyer on your side or by your side who can see that, who can, penetrate through that, because then you cannot. And I always say that, it's better to have a lawyer. Please hire a lawyer, because whatever case you have, it's hard to separate just facts from feelings. And when you mix those, then you end up mixing everything and nothing will make sense. So that's my only recommendation. Always consultate a lawyer.
Always.
There
you have it. Yes, consultations are needed, most definitely. Not just about joint property arrangements, but in other cases as well, in general, for everything, as you mentioned. Yes.
And not only ChatGPT.
Yeah. Do not depend on ChatGPT only.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh my God. Sometimes when I hear people, and they can be like, when they look up something, they are very exciting over looking up something on ChatGPT, and they are like, well, ChatGPT says this and that. And then I'm like, well, sometimes ChatGPT can be wrong too.
Definitely.
Yeah. Great. I'm thinking that we can move on to the next question. In your field of work, I'm thinking that you see a lot of new lawyers, newly examinated lawyers who have studied in different universities and so on. And when they finish these universities, sometimes, they can have a great mentor, or they can have a bad mentor, or, sometimes it's all about the way of how, upcoming lawyers learn and so on. So here is the next question then. Do you have any advice for upcoming lawyers?
Yeah, I do have many advices, actually. First of all, please be curious on what kind of work you do, what you can do as a lawyer, because being a lawyer is not only going to a law firm and that's it, or going to a governmental institution or whatever. So that's one advice. Open your mind and be curious, and try to be entrepreneurish already from year one. Go to different firms, go to different places ask for non-paid job roles to be able to gain some experience. Because when you go out, when you're done, I always say this, when you finish law school, the only thing you know is to read and write. You don't know anything else because you had not practiced anything really. So try to gain experience early on, and whatever work, as I said earlier, whatever work you do within restaurants with elderly people or whatever, everything is good. Everything, wherever you go, is good. And when you go and apply for a job, please try to figure out what that company or that firm needs and tell them why you need to be there to provide that. Because I've read so many applications, 3 years. The only thing I see is I need to learn more. I want to learn more. I want to experience more. But everyone has something that they can add to the firm. As easy as, well, I can handle your Instagram account. I'm so good of taking picture and writing good content, whatever.
Yeah.
So be curious in that sense.
Mm-hmm. There you have it, to the newly graduated lawyers. Or upcoming lawyers. Yeah. Great. Something else you want to add?
I think we covered most of the topics that can be dealt with in the legal field.
Yes.
You can find me, just Google me. You can always email me, ask me whatever question I will be found easily.
Perfect. Yeah. Great. I will make sure to put a description, a link to all of your social media accounts, and both Kliently and your own, of course.
Yep.
Yeah, great. I'm thinking we can move on to the next question. We have a couple of questions left. Here is the next question. The act concerning support and service for persons with certain functional impairments, in Swedish LSS, lagen om stöd och service till vissa funktionshindrade, is also something for which you provide legal support. Unfortunately, individuals with neuropsychiatric disabilities are often marginalized in society. Public figures who are born into fame and fortune are the ones being heard much more often than the usual group of individuals. The issue with this is that it becomes more of a trend than something that needs to be addressed with seriousness. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I don't have any statistic about all this, but what my experience is that historically, these kind of cases, I mean, people who end up with a case that has to be appealed, for instance, and need a lawyer, they have to pay the lawyer for the whole case. And these people are normally not financially equipped or have enough money to be able to hire a lawyer. And this is something that has been discussed. And I think recently there is a shift where they can be able to get funds from the government or the state to be able to hire a lawyer for a couple of hours or so. So there is an interesting shift in this, but historically there has not been, I mean, people has to pay and nobody really hires a lawyer with this in these cases because, you know, a lawyer do cost a lot. You cannot, to make an appeal, pay 15,000. So there are organizations trying to help some people and so on. So I think, yes, definitely, economically, you have to have the resources to be able to be heard or change a decision and so on. Yeah.
Thinking we can move on quickly to the next question. Do you have any sunshine stories about successful cases?
Well, if you want to hear about sunshine stories, then it has to be done with if you win or lose. And there are not so many winning in law or legal cases. We don't win. It's not winning really. But I mean, I do have some cases that I really remember with a warm heart. And one of them was, I will give you one of them because this is one that I really have in particular in mind, was a 15 years old young kid who I was a public defender for. And he was accused of having drugs on him. It was a drug-related case. And he was 15. There was not much. I mean, he wouldn't be convicted in that sense, but he still went up. He was called to the police for a court hearing or a police hearing. And he was asked some questions. His father was there. His father was so not happy with him, obviously. You know, this was a first-timer, young kid who tried stuff, was in a bad company, these kind of things. The policewoman gave him a hug and said, you know what, I don't want to see you again, ever, here. Please, you know, and she just gave him some awesome advice and this warmth and this love and this hug. I really believe that treating kids like that will make them shift quite a way fast instead of criminalizing kids. And this is also a thing we are shifting through now with this government. You know, we lowered the prison age to 13. I mean, 13 years old. You're just a child. You're a child.
Yeah.
So that is not, I mean, I hope it was a success story. I don't know where he ended up. This was a couple of years ago, but I think, and this is something that I really remembered, that I was sitting there and I thought, wow, this is maybe the only thing he needs. Like a hug from someone else, you know? Yeah. So.
Yeah, perfect. Absolutely. I only have 3 questions left. So here is the next question then. The healthcare system can wrong individuals, and there are cases that show little to no responsibility from the involved parties in the system. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I've seen a lot of cases in that sense. There are different, you know, pattern, or there are different institutions that you can go to if you feel that you have been if you have been treated mistreated or treated in a way that you shouldn't have, or, you know, and I've experienced some cases where people have got right, but I mean, being mistreated and maybe ended up in a bad surgery or something, even death. There is no money in the world that will cover that up. So it doesn't, you know. And we have some cases now going on where actually, yes, they ended up dying. So yeah, it's terrible. But there is a build-up. There are institutions where you can go. You have the rights to get economical or financial funds, or your family or so on, but still.
Tragic.
Yeah, it is.
And then we have the next question. The government can also wrong individuals, and there are cases that show little to no responsibility from the parties involved in the system. Decision makers in the government can benefit when deciding against individuals, even if there are cases that demonstrate the rights that individuals have. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's even here also, there are different ways you can, you know, you can go to if you feel that you have been treated in a way that you shouldn't have. You have the EU, for instance, or you can also go internationally to the European Court of Human Rights, for instance, and so on. But you won't get something that will give you a satisfaction straight ahead and feeling that, well, I have got the help here very fast. Or EU, for instance, you won't get any financially or finance to be able to feel that you have the right. It would be more like a writing or a report saying, well, this shouldn't have been happening. That's it.
Yeah.
A European Court of Human Rights will take ages to look into your case, and it will also be, well, it shouldn't have been like this. And that's it. You know, so I think It might feel, as we say in Swedish, tandlöst. Like, well, they will say it's wrong, but it will be like a father telling his child, "Ayabaya, you shouldn't do this," and then you go on.
Yeah. Perfect. Then we have reached the very last question of this interview. So here it is. How would you describe your perfect society in accordance with fair laws and regulations?
A perfect society. Are there any perfect societies?
I do not know. You tell me.
No, I think, well, the perfect society, I would say, of course, in a democracy, you have to elect the people or the political parties who you want to run the country. They will put the regulations that they have to be handled by courts that are separated from politics. And you, as an individual, you need to have the right to have a legal representation that will understand you, that you will understand that person. You need to know your rights. You need to know your obligations. You need to know your duties. If you have that all figured out, then you can represent yourself. And being able to represent yourself in the best way, that is the perfect society, I would say.
Perfect. And that was the very last question of the interview. So thank you, Nadja, for being on this podcast episode about the topic law and order. It was very great having you here. So thank you.
Thank you, Joseph, for having me and listening on my long discussions on law and order. It was a pleasure to be in your podcast.
That's nice to hear. And it was a great pleasure having you on the podcast. And yeah, we will probably get in touch.
Yeah.
So thank you, Nadja, and you have a good one.
Thank you. You too.
Yes. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.